Media. We are here on Phoenix 92.5 FM and, of course, nerdtonemedia.com with the developer of tech support, Error Unknown, Kevin Giguère. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come and speak with us.
My pleasure. Peace in, everyone.
So I've been playing your game a lot. I really enjoyed it. It popped up randomly on my Steam mentions, and I was like, okay, let's have a look at this. And I've really enjoyed it. So the first thing I need to say is, where did the inspiration come from this game, and what made you want to kind of delve in here? Because you have to have been in this industry to know it, because it's very accurate.
It's scary how accurate it is.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
So first, maybe a little bit of backstory. Tech Support Error Unknown was my third game published on Steam.
Right.
My first game was a Japanese-style RPG called Arrowlight Core, and my second game was a runner racing game called Astral Traveler.
Okay.
And neither of those games really sold all that well.
Right.
You know, it's a difficult. There's a lot of games coming out. It's difficult to stand out. It's difficult for people to notice your games. So as I moved into the next game that I was going to work on, I took a moment to kind of figure out what are themes that have not been explored? How can I really distinguish myself from anything that's on the market right now? One of the games that I really enjoyed, and I think it shows in the design of tech support, is Papers, Please. Right. Which is the story of a customs agent in a kind of a country torn by war and whatnot. And I think that the job of a customs agent is something that really stands out, and that, you know, that was something that no one ever seen before. Yeah. So I drew from my experience as obviously a programmer. And you asked me if I had done some tech support. I never worked in a tech support environment, but I did support products that I've developed. I decided to work on tech support, which I figured would also be something that could interest a great deal of people as well. One of the things that I really wanted to do was kind of make the game in such a way that you didn't need to have technical know-how to proceed. Everything is kind of very familiar to people. That the answers are very logical, but also, like, I wanted, as I worked on the game, I realized that the game was a little less about the technical aspect of things anyways, and it became a lot more about these people that you encounter, all of these not these relationships, but these personalities of the people you encounter. So it's kind of interesting, because when I started the game, I was really focusing on all of the technical aspects, and I had ideas for design schematics and all of that, and that kind of got put aside as I started focusing on the actual people that you meet, and, you know, whether it be the characters of the story and the random customers that come in with their own problems and who have their own personalities as well. So,
sorry, Bryn, go for it.
No,
the one thing I was astounded by was, like, how authentic some of the responses from customers was. Like,
it's scary. It's scary. Yeah. Oh, like, it's unbelievable, actually. Yeah.
Because I haven't had a chance to play the game, so I was just running through a bunch of Let's Plays earlier today for this, and first of all, in almost every single one of them, they referred to it as being Papers, Please, but in tech support in every single one. But as well as that, like, I mean, the amount of times where they were just, like, trying to waste the customer's time, and then they come back going, "Oh, actually, it works now. That's fine." And we're like, "What? This is exactly what happens." Chat with customers.
I've done 2 Let's Plays so far for the channel, but I've played I played it for about 4 or 5 hours. And it's the same kind of thing where the overreaction from customers, the extreme annoyance, and just how it all kind of works, where you have to send stuff back forward and look through databases. It's actually the most accurate way for tech support I've ever seen in a game. So fair play. It's unbelievable. But in every kind of way, even like the little kind of emails that you get from people and all that kind of stuff, it's actually spectacular. So fair play. And this is just like, I know it's surface level, because there are much deeper levels which we get into, but from an actual, like, game world immersion, you nailed it, man. It's incredible. It really is.
Thank you. Do you have swearing
Absolutely.
turned on?
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's what makes it even more real. And you're like, okay, so it's unbelievable. It really is. But yeah, so talking about that, right, from that approach, I've seen a bunch of like, because I like playing games like Grey Hat and stuff like that as well, where it has an inbuilt OS. That's something that really struck me. When that ever happens, that immediately hooks me in. I'm like, okay, this is beyond just a basic simulator. They're really going for deep immersion. What made you go that deep in to like really kind of place you as not just someone playing a game, but you're actually involved in every aspect, even down to the BIOS level of a computer?
So one of the challenges I have as a developer is I work alone. So I work alone on, on tech support. I was the only developer. I made like 99% of it. I had an artist for a few of the icons, but that's about it.
Right.
Because I work alone and because I'm not an artist, I try to find these hooks for to get people really immersed into the environment and really kind of add this little level of playfulness. I think one of the fun things about OSs and whatnot is kind of like the manipulation of windows and resizing and doing all these things. Like they're very natural actions, but I think that we kind of take for granted. But I think there's something fun and freeing about being able to do that stuff. And I've played other games that kind of emulated computer environments, but they didn't allow you to resize anything. Everything was very locked. It was very static. And I felt like when I was playing those games, I felt like you were losing a fun aspect. You were losing some of the playfulness. So that's actually a lot of the angles that I take when I design, tech support or anything else, is how can I make this playful? How can the player can go in and kind of play around with the game outside of the main thing that the game wants you to do. So you're interacting with these people, you're messing around with them, but like just moving, you're going to be moving windows around all the time. So that should be fun to do, right? And same goes with, there's a command prompt in the game. Well, it's fun to be able to explore and discover. There are secrets to be found. You mentioned the BIOS, like that's kind of a secret that's hidden in plain sight. All those things kind of add to the game in a way that's kind of tangential to the core experience, but is at the same time like very relatable to people who know computers. And it's also very satisfying to kind of find all of these nuggets and secrets that I've as the designer has laid around and kind of allowed people to discover. I want people to enjoy their experience, and I always say, like, the most important thing for me is the main thing, the things that you're doing the most in the game should be fun. And that's actually, like, I find that a lot of games don't actually do that. You'll have a game that has a great combat system, but then moving around the map isn't actually fun. There's not anything that's involved to make that fun. Assassin's Creed did a good job. Assassin's Creed has you climbing all over the place and you're jumping from roof to roof, and or Mirror's Edge. Like, those are games that are super fun in during the navigation. And I feel like more games should kind of try to integrate those aspects into the experience of the game, because it makes it so much more interesting and pleasing, well beyond the main mechanics.
And that's something that really kind of hooks you in. I wasn't aware that there was a terminal in the game until it popped up when I started kind of, working with Indigo Fox or whatever, and I was like, oh wow, this is amazing. And then when I unlocked it and I was messing around with it, the fact that it mirrors the command prompt so well and it's able to do such cool things, and then when you play it again, you can unlock it super early on. I was messing around with it last night. It opens up this game well beyond what you're expecting, and adds this whole other level, because I know there is the whole conspiracy thing and all that side, which we'll talk about, but I would say for anyone who's played this game and hasn't invested a serious amount of time in it, they're missing out, and it's unlike Greyhack or something like that, which you know what you're getting into. This is beyond that, and it's just one of those things that I'm shocked by every time I go back to play it. I haven't had a similar run through yet. There are similar stuff, obviously, where you got to kind of go through a bit and the other, but as far as when you start getting into it, it really opens up as a game after the 4th or 5th playthrough.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to do was to make sure that the game had a lot of depth, but was very accessible to players. Like you have a lot of hacking games where you type long lists of commands,
yeah,
and it kind of really emulates a hacking environment. And I actually purposefully did not want to do that specifically
it's too
because
much.
It is a lot, and those are great experiences, right? Like if you're looking for those things, those games are out there, and people get very invested in them, and that's fine. That's the perfect experience for those games. In my case, because there's a timer to each day and whatnot, I wanted to make sure that a lot of the actions can be executed really rapidly, which is also why when you communicate with customers, you cannot type an answer.
Yeah.
You have to choose from a menu. So a lot of people kind of wanted to see, oh, well, it would be cool if you could manually type an answer, which would have been difficult. Let's not kid ourselves. It would have been difficult from my side as well to kind of be able to respond to everything. But also, it also slows down everything. It slows down the pacing. It slows down the ability to respond to customers. And as the game stands right now, a starting player will probably complete like 3 or 4 tickets on their first day. Meanwhile, because I have a lot of experience with the game, I can complete 15. That would not be possible with a copy and paste kind of system.
No, from the mechanics of it, trying to understand how you wrote it, it is a bunch of if statements basically with that, where you're kind of like, if this happens, go in, get in. And to be able to do that the way you have it set up, yeah, I understand that criticism, but it would destroy the gameplay.
Yeah.
Because you're expected to do so much. And even when you unlock that extra RAM where you can have extra screens and stuff, you're like, no, you don't want to be able to, like... there are some weird points where you're interacting with someone and the option isn't there, but it kind of reaches that logical conclusion anyway. But I think that's a very small criticism, in my opinion. I got around it and it wasn't that big of a deal. Bryn, do you want to get in there?
So one thing I was thinking about there was one of the things I'd seen in a lot of playthroughs, just the vast amount of different endings there are that are possible. Was that inspired out of something like the Stanley Parable or games of that style, where there are just a huge depth of different ways that the story can end?
In a way, yes, but also I think it was also a response to my own game. So, okay, so as a player, I don't often replay games. I'll usually go through the main experience, and I'll see the conclusion, and I'll try to experience most, if not all, of the things that the game has to offer. I'll finish the game, I'll be satisfied, and then I would rather play 10 games for 10 hours than one game for 100 hours, for instance.
Right.
And when I was working on Our Light Core, my first game, AJRPG, that was kind of a philosophy that I brought into it, which was a more of a linear experience, because that's what I prefer. Unfortunately, that ended up backfiring against me. That was one of the main criticisms about the game, because that's not what most people get out of games. So as I worked on tech support, I kind of I learned from what I had done, and I knew that I wanted to provide a lot of freedom for players. I wanted to have all of these threads that people could pursue to kind of go explore all of these different characters. I want it to feel natural, so there's no morality system, which I feel like would have been very gamey. Instead, it's more like you develop these relationships with these different people, and if you don't develop that relationship, then they just go away, and they don't really pay attention to you anymore. which I felt was a lot more natural. And the whole 23 endings thing is that kind of came about naturally, because suddenly you can choose to follow all of these people, and you can choose to help them, and you can succeed in helping them or fail in helping them, and the endings just started piling up from there in a kind of a natural fashion. But yeah, a lot of it came down to I have this huge story. You have the main conflict of the game, which is the uh, the conflict between Indigo, the anonymous kind of hacker group, and oh my God, I forget the name of the main company, Kazar.
Yeah.
It's been a while. I made
It's
the game
okay. It's
over
okay.
a year ago.
It's okay.
So you have the conflict between Indigo and Kazar, and that's kind of the main conflict of the game.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make sure to have tangential stuff that doesn't even relate to the main thing for people to pursue.
Yeah.
Because it's all about kind of having that natural quote unquote simulation experience. And in real life, not everything revolves around your job. Not everything revolves around this one conflict. And that's kind of what I want to do. Okay, your brother comes in, you have all of these emails from different people who have no connection to the main conflict. And as a player, you can even just ignore the main conflict. You don't care about that. You just care about taking care of your sick mother. And there you go. You have that freedom.
Yeah, that's one thing that I noticed as well. It was, I don't know the right way to play the game. And that's the first time that's actually happened, because I'm like, okay, do I side with the hackers, or do I just do the job, or do I pay for medicine? And the fact that's there is very interesting, because again, there's no real right way to play it. Is there, or am I missing something?
No, and actually that was one of the big things that I want to do with this game is there is no villain in the game. So the game doesn't say this is a good guy, this is a bad guy. Everyone has their own motivations, and in real life, no one is the villain of their own story, right? Like
correct,
everyone acts, and you can agree or disagree with their philosophy, with their life philosophies, with the reasons why they do things, but they feel justified in their own actions. And when I created those characters, I wanted everyone to feel justified in what they do, and you as the player can choose to align yourself with their philosophy or just disagree with it and go in a different direction. That's also why I want to have different people who are connected and not connected with the main conflict, because you get to explore a lot more different philosophies under that model.
Yeah, and that's one of the most refreshing parts of it. I think it's very character based, even though there's no real kind of no audio, no voice acting. You're still sucked in. When you get those emails, they're very, very in depth. Particularly when stuff like Spencer pops up, and you're like, Spencer's Island. You get to upgrade your computer. That's very fun. I love the little widget system, where you can pop out and you go on the internet and stuff, and it feels very real. It feels very lived in, and that's what's nice. So when these characters come in, you're not just saying this is part of the simulation. These are characters in this world that you can really kind of grow and develop. So yeah, man, fair play. It's out of this world. What made you use Unity as a thing? Because I know it's weird. If I'm using Unity in this has really pushed what I thought Unity could even do.
My first game, I'm always going to talk about my first game.
Hey, go for it. Go for it. Yeah.
About building upon your past experience and your mistakes. My first game, I made the engine entirely myself. So It was made in C# with XNA. I started in 2012, and that was still the 360 era.
Yeah.
When Microsoft had the indie game thing on the 360. I forget the exact name of it, but so they had that platform, and one of my objectives was to kind of make a game that would function on the 360. So I used their API basically. Unfortunately, the result is that my game was only compatible with Windows,
Hmm.
And I tried a few things to kind of convert my code to other frameworks, but I started realizing how much time that would be, and it didn't quite work as I wanted to. So I kind of put that aside for a while. And as I completed that project, I realized like that's coding your engine is time consuming. It's not worth the effort. I want to make games. I don't want to make engines.
Right.
So there are like 1.5 billion resources on the internet for Unity. I tried a few engines, Game Maker, Studio, and Unreal Engine and all that. And Unity was just the one that really stuck with me, because in the past I had worked with Flash, Adobe Flash, and I had made games with that. And I felt like some of the philosophies and the way you kind of manipulate the environment and whatnot was similar. I could see some similarities with Flash, and I immediately took to Unity. Like within half an hour, I was already making cool stuff that functioned well. And that was for my second game. And then when I went for my third game, I was so familiar with Unity at that point that it would have been way more time consuming to kind of switch engines. And I don't think I would have gained anything from switching engines.
Right.
Like as a developer, one of the things I need to be conscientious of is how much time every action. Like I do this full time, so I rely on this for salary and whatnot. And I only make money when I sell games, and I only sell games when I've completed games.
Yeah.
So I need to make sure that I spend my time wisely during development. And Unity was just an engine that I felt allowed me to do this. And Unity is also very versatile. You can do 2D things, you can do 3D things, you can do all of tech support was made within the menu system of Unity. And as you can see from the games I've already released, I like exploring different genres. I like to my ideas are just all over the place. Right now I'm working on a first-person puzzle game. I'm working on a tycoon style game. For a while I was working on a card game. So I have like all of these directions that I love to explore and to kind of develop for. And that kind of played into Unity as well, as opposed to other engines that tend to be more specialized in the thing that they are really good at.
And you can kind of export them out and as well, and kind of have that compatibility. So sorry, I just wanted to clear it up, because Unity gets a bad rep, and I think it's great. Sorry, Brendan, go for it.
Yeah, I'm sure as well, working on that many different kinds of games at the same time is great for cross-pollinating ideas and going, oh, that's a great system I can throw in somewhere else, and just to keep you creatively vibrant with work. Because I've seen it from I've seen it come up with other developers where they've made comments about games that they have they want to do long-term support for. That when they go off to make other games, they go, oh, that's actually a great idea. I'll bring it back for another release, for the next build of a game I'm currently working on. And is that something that you found with trying to do so many projects simultaneously?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I do streaming as well. I stream game development during the week, and on Sundays I play games. And I try to kind of cover 3 or 4 different games during a 4-hour stream. And, I never focus on a single genre. I explore everything. I want to see everything, because you never know where a cool idea is going to pop up. And also, I think it's important to kind of contextualize ideas. Like you can see there are games out there that are heavily criticized. For the fans of the Angry Video Game Nerd, you might know Jekyll and Hyde on the NES, which is renowned to be a terrible game. But there's a really cool mechanic in that game where, as Jekyll, you are walking to the right, and if you die, you turn into hide and you're walking to the left, and your gameplay, you're continuing to play. The gameplay is changed because your abilities change, and it becomes a race against the clock to wake up again as Jekyll. And the game itself is not great, but that mechanic is really cool. I've never used anything like that, but when I play a game, that's basically how I'm going to look at it. I'm going to look at all of the individual elements, and I'm going to see, okay, how can I use this in different contexts? Is this interesting? And conversely, you can have a game that's really awesome, but this thing does not work. This is this is buggy, or oftentimes it's menu systems. A lot of devs are not good with menu systems, and it's very difficult to navigate, or you don't have all the options, or this option should be here, but it's under two different things, or I try to notice all of those small things, and those are often very relevant to different genres of games, and they'll be relevant to whatever I'm working on. And you're right. Like, even as I work on different games, like I'll be exploring different ideas, and I'll often throw ideas away that I don't feel fit within what I'm trying to do. Or conversely, this is really cool on a prototype that ends up not working out, but I'll use it in another game because it's just I realize that is really fun, and it needs to be in a game that I have. So yeah,
you can definitely get that sense of progression as you're going through. Like, the depth of this is, I'm not shocked to hear that that's your working mechanism, because it's so obvious. One thing that you mentioned about mechanics of the game itself, and how do you go about implementing those? Like, when you're doing your design, when you're doing your actual first build as such, how different is the first process compared to the mid or final build, like, for you?
It'll usually be very, very, very different. I start off with a game design document, which can range from 20 pages to 50 to 80. That really depends on the type of game that I'm working on and how much I'm detailing stuff like story and features and whatnot. And I'll start with that. And a game design document is basically a list of assumptions. So I'm writing what I think is going to be fun. All of these elements work together, and this works with this, and okay, this seems like really fun on paper. Then I start integrating it, and I always focus on integrating the features first. I put graphics aside because I want to make sure that the game is fun, that the mechanics are super fun for the player. And if they're not, okay, then I need to obviously I'm not going to flesh those out. I'm going to throw them away. So I'm saving time in that sense in my iteration. And I'll try to come up with alternatives. Or if one feature turns out to be really, really fun, then okay, how can I make other things connect with that one feature? In tech support, that feature turned out to be the conversations that I was having with customers. Originally, again, I was expecting that the fun would be in a more technical aspect, but it turns out that for me, what I found was more interesting was all of these conversations and making it sound very natural and having all of these different personalities. Like, that was really, really interesting, and that just came out organically from that process.
And that's one thing as well, like, on that point with customers, all the customer interactions are all very, very, there's one or two that are a bit kind of hilarious, but most of them, about 98% of them, are very, very organic, even down to like their spelling errors and stuff, which I really enjoyed. I was like, yeah, that's very real. That kind of happens, and it's amazing. Like, so how did you actually manage to get that? Did you was there a call out for a sample size? Did you get some people involved to help you, or is it just your own
I wrote everything in the game. I wrote everything in the English version of the game. There is a German and a Chinese version. I neither speak nor spell German nor Chinese, although I do speak So peace into all of
Sure.
all of the people in Quebec out there. So I wrote everything, and basically I was trying to find different hooks that would really be able to distinguish people. So the first thing that I did was how many ways are there to say hello? How many, are there synonyms that I can use that kind of change the structure of sentences? Some people will make a lot of typos, and that's kind of depending on the personality of the person. Some people make a lot of typos. Some people make very few. This might be weird. I don't know if you've noticed this one. I went really in depth with the typo system too, because the typos are all keys that are around the key that you're typing.
That's what was really impressive. I was like, this, because they're real. They're not ridiculous typos. They're ones that people would actually make.
Yeah, exactly. So like that was again part of trying to make things as realistic and as believable as possible. One of my favorite aspects of the dialogue system actually that came late in development was smileys. So I always wanted to have smileys in conversations. These are again very relatable to people, and it took me a while, but I was very happy to be able to integrate those within the system.
It's great. It's one of the most fun kind of. It's not casual. It's listed as a casual game, and I wouldn't say it is. Like, it has that element, but you can waste away like an hour or 2 hours before you even realize, and then you start getting into the game. So it's just great, and it has all that technical stuff as well. But the actual like interaction with customers and even interaction with other employees, it's great. It's one of the most enjoyable experiences of that outside of other games that would be similar to it. Like I was playing Orwell, excuse me, and Orwell just doesn't have that same charm.
Orwell feels I'm very aware I'm playing a game.
Yeah,
with
that's
it's not like, I mean, one of the things I loved was in one of the playthroughs I saw, like one of the very first conversations was asking, am I talking to a bot or to a real person? Which is just one of the most common questions you get on chat on an online chat.
Or one where it's one I finally broke down and talked to you. I'm like, it's
absolutely.
It's great. It's so, it grabs you so quickly.
It's just so immersive. Like,
it's brilliant. And the funny thing about it is, I was raving about this game to everybody who would listen before I even discovered the hacking elements and the deeper dark side of it. Even playing 20 minutes in, I'm like, this is one of the most fun games I've played in a very long time. So it's as Bryn said, when you're working a chat, you see these kind of things, and one thing. What's it like building a browser inside a game? Like, I know you can't type stuff. I discovered that last night, but what did you want to achieve having that like in-world browser?
Well, so originally, when I started developing the game, again, I kind of made a list of all the things that I expect to find on a computer. So you have your mail, you obviously needed the chat system because that was a core part of the game. The command prompt was pretty much always there, and the browser became a big part of it. And originally, the banking system was actually its own application.
Right.
And over time, like I kind of moved a few of those things over to the browser because it just felt more organic, and it also freed up a little bit your start menu, which helped out. The browser was interesting because it's browser pages are from my perspective as a developer just static pages. So there's no real difference between that and the way every application actually functions in the same way, where you have. So this is going very technical for the people out there, but gives you a little insight into how games are made. You have your top layer, which is kind of the window in which all of the software is loaded, and then you have the software itself with its kind of visual positioning, all of those things. And in the case of the browser, there's a sub-level on that, which is the actual page that you're going to be exploring. So the pages themselves are, from my perspective, very static. I'm just moving, it's not coded in any way the same way a actual web page would be. It's just boxes that I'm moving around and that I'm kind of stretching to make it display properly and stretch along with the window that contains it. In a way, it's so much easier to make a fake website because you have a lot of tools. Because Unity, the Unity UI system is really designed to allow a lot of these things, whereas the real internet was designed in the 70s and 80s and didn't plan for any of this. And now we're kind of everything we're trying to do is all trying to hack our way around 80s technology, basically.
Oh, look, me and Brent know. We know.
Unfortunately, we do.
Unfortunately, we do, and that's why everything breaks, and your game doesn't.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just, but yeah, it's that's really cool, man. That's fantastic, and it's one thing I actually thought about when I was playing it initially, because more naturally it felt like the banking thing would be in an app. But then when I was going through it, I was actually like, oh wait, you got to kind of install everything, and then it goes onto the web page. Like Spencer's Oasis, I thought would have been an app as well. So once I figured out that was consciously what you were doing, it kind of made it more natural after that point. But really enjoyed it, dude. I would say anyone who hasn't checked your game out, it's over on Steam now. You can download it for free as a demo. But anyone who hasn't played it, give us the hard sell, Kevin. What's the hard sell?
So I guess we're gonna close by explaining what the game is. So in tech support Era Unknown, you play the role of a tech support specialist. You're working for this company, Quasar, who is getting attacked by a hacktivist group called Indigo, and you, as a player, must decide: do I want to side with hacktivists, side with the corporation, or do something else entirely? It's a game about your relationship with all of these different people, in different positions within the corporation, the hacktivist group, your brother, the police gets involved. There's all of these people who want something from you, but you're in control. You might just be a tech support specialist, but the game is very much positioned to put you in control. You make the decisions, and your actions definitely has a big impact upon what will happen. And will lead to one of 23 different endings. So it's available now on Steam, and when you complete it, you can go into some challenge modes as well. There are leaderboards where you can challenge yourself and try to become the best tech support specialist in all the land. So go check it out.
Definitely one for the CV anyway. Guys, go over, check it out on Steam now. Tech support Era Unknown. There's a bunch of Let's Plays on our YouTube channel and a review coming up. Kevin, thank you so much for coming on to join us today. It's been an absolute pleasure, sir.
Thank you. And also for the people who want to see more of my stuff, my name is Kevin. My company is Slumber. And I'm currently working on a first-person puzzle game, so very different from what I'm from tech support itself. And you can actually find me working on the game on twitch.tv/DragonSlumber. I stream game dev 4 times a week, usually during the evenings in Eastern Standard Time. And yeah, you can kind of discover the stuff that I'm working on, and if I'm doing something wrong, you can tell me in my face, and we can have a conversation about it. I like to have these one-on-one conversations with people. I'm not good with social media, which is more about yelling into the ether and having people hear it or not, depending on if Twitter wants to show my post. But I like to have these one-on-one conversations with people and kind of see all of these perspectives. So please drop in or drop into my Discord. Find me. I'm on the internet. I'm everywhere.
He's very easy to find. So Dragon Slumber is where you can find him. And we'll be back after this break, guys. Thanks so much.